Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero, the Dew Sweeper. You're listening to the Tour Coach Podcast, giving you insights into golf instruction at the highest level, from on the PGA Tour to our learning center at Frederica Golf Club. Sitting in with me here at the Tour Coach Podcast, someone I've wanted to talk to for a good long time, had the opportunity to sit with at the U.S. Open last week. One of the great coaches and names in golf, Sean Foley. Foley, what's up, my man?
Yeah, how you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Just have licked my wounds after a week of the double miscut, and now I'm back at home and ready to go again.
Yeah, I understand. So let me ask you this. When you have a double miscut like that, what are your thoughts? Like, because people always want to know the inside the ropes thing. As a teacher, what are your first thoughts when you go through I've got a double miscut. I have it happen plenty of times. I went 1 for 1 last week. But how do you handle that?
I just think you have to appreciate the difficulty of the game. It's like I don't ever try to really be that emotional with how I approach what I do. I think that's just that's just dangerous. So I had times where I had 4 players in the field, and for 3 weeks in a row, they finished in the top 10 every week. And I think that what'll happen is if you think that should be normal, then the rest of the time you're going to be completely discontent and frustrated, rather than recognizing, I think, how special that is. So it's understanding, like, look, man, when life and work are going good, you have to be grateful and you have to enjoy it. And then when it's not, you have to know that at some point it will again. And it's just what happens, I mean, that golf course out there, it's such a big ask. I mean, if everyone had to tee off again today for the next 4 days, the top 10 could look totally different. And so, I think it's just realizing that, unfortunately, I think failure is just the way we've been taught what that word is. It's just got such a negative connotation. Neuroscientists say that failure is actually feedback. So it kind of lets you look a little bit, okay, at what happened. But then I think that doing too much of that sometimes leads us speculating. I mean, you had a perfect drive tone on number 13, and it went 340 and ended up 6 inches in the rough, and you had to play out sideways. Right.
It happens, and that was, to me, obviously, like, you walked around and watched a bunch of golf, and I saw plenty of shots that were really good shots. In particular, where Lucas on Saturday hits drive down 9, or on Sunday barely runs through the rough, runs right up against the edge of the cut line, and he's got no shot to get to the green. I mean, you're talking a matter of inches, and it's not like he hit a bad golf shot to get there. It's just
No, a couple of inches is then an 8-iron to a front right pin. He makes eagle, and the day's different. Like, I think that's what players don't pay attention enough to, is just the sheer probability. Like, I've had players when they struggle with their putting, they'll say, like, I miss everything from 8 feet. And it's like, well, I mean, not really, but the average on tour from 8 feet is like 50%. So if you think you should make 8 out of 10, you're always going to think something's wrong with you.
Right. Now, as a coach with a player, so when everybody thinks you're geniuses when the guy's playing great, but when a guy gets, he's playing good, and you mentioned, we were talking about different scenarios and guys where you feel like maybe you're not on the right track. How do you handle that as a coach, where maybe you feel, maybe where you feel like the player regressing may not always be the right word, but like you're not on the right track? How do you handle that, or what is your thought process when you feel like maybe with a player like, man, I just don't know if we're going in the right direction? What do you do?
Well, I think it always takes, like, deep introspection, right? So I did this post on Instagram yesterday. Just talking about kind of my feelings on the world and what's been going on.
Very good post.
So, thank you. I got a lot of comments on it. And this one guy commented, and I don't know who he is, but he said, makes sense on why you always came in the pro shop to say hello to the staff at the PGA tournament at our place. Only top 100 teacher to do so.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, if you have a conflated idea of who you are, look, I don't know what you charge, but I charge my guys 5% of what they earn on the course. So from just a straight mathematical, probable business model, I'm 5% of their success and I'm 5% of their failure. Now, to be a great coach, you have to feel like you're going to give them everything you have.
Right.
But the idea is, like, the golf swing is very, very complex. The human brain is very, very complex. Sometimes it's done and they make it look easy, but most of the time it's just really not the case,
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to look at you got to be careful, you know, when you have a player in 2020, but you had it like really money in 2016. Well, a lot has changed in that person's brain and body by that point. So the old, like, this is what we did when we did it the best, that's dangerous too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But normally, when the player was playing his best, there was more of a shot shape.
Yes.
So I remember before you started working with Lucas, one day he'd asked me at the LA Open if I could take a look. And I said, you know, I don't have much time, but I have 2 hours this afternoon. And it gave me an opportunity to see Lucas, who I really enjoy, and Don Cooper, who I absolutely love. And Lucas was trying to hit a fade. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I just feel like I got too dry. And I'm like, nah. I said, look, dude, put a stick out in front of you, start it right at that, and take a bigger divot. And that was all I said. So to me, when I think about Lucas, I think of the starting right draw that doesn't often cross the target line.
Correct.
If Lucas is literally trying to think that the key is to fade the ball moving forward, man, that's just so against what he does that it can't. Yeah, does he need to know how to fade it? Of course he can fade it, but if he just set up and he had to hit it in the fairway and on the green, then he would hit that shot, the shot that comes easier to him. So I think it's more like that. So with a player like Danny Willett, he became the #1 amateur in the world with a pretty sizable high sling draw.
Yep.
And then he won the Masters with a slight fade. But what happened over time is the cure of the overdraw became a cancer to where it got to where the only shot he could hit was a bull cut.
Okay.
And I don't know if it goes back to like a Mac O'Grady fascination that a lot of people have and how the swing looks, but I just cannot think of that many great players who hit a full cut. I can't.
No.
I can't. Think about it.
Mm-mm.
So I think the desire to get rid of a hook, a lot of guys went to try and play a cut, but they didn't necessarily do it the right way. It's like, I think it's easier to hit less of a hook than it is to teach a hooker how to cut it.
Agree. And, you know, when I started working with Lucas, I had the similar thought, I think, that you did. Like, the first thing he said was, I want to get back to hooking it. And so to me, wasn't going back trying to make do what he used to do, but was to set him up and to just get him to hit hook again. And then let him figure out how to hook it less, right?
Yeah. Hey, look, you know, the thing about coaching, obviously it's how we make our living. It's something we're passionate about. We enjoy the people that we work with. We'd like to see them do well and all that. But, like, how did Ben Hogan and Lee Trevino get to that point? So I think that as I've got older, I feel like my role in helping a player has diminished. It's more of like creating the understanding in the environment so that they can go out on their own. And, you know, when a player looks at you and says, you know, what do you think I should feel? It's like, oh, man, like, well, how could I ever answer that? So, you know, it's like this afternoon I'm working with Hunter Mahan, and I worked with Hunter from 2008 for a long time. And, you know, relationships are hard, right? Like, even relationships with, like, our children or our wives or our parents aren't guaranteed. You know what I mean? So, you know, when we stopped, we just weren't getting it done. Like, we weren't getting it done. But, you know, I really know what he needs to do to get it done. But that's just a piece of the puzzle, the desire, the discipline, the everything. I mean, when Hunter was on top of the world and we top 10, we felt like every single week, you know, he was just engaged and he didn't have 4 kids. So, you know, life changes in good ways, but it also causes other aspects. So there's more to it than just, you know, it's amazing to watch Instagram. If you went on the range at a PGA Tour event and you did slow motion videos of the guys in the top 125, they would hardly get any likes. Like, people would say they're too steep coming down, they stand up too fast, they're too flippy. And, you know, we're in a world now of this swing where everyone hits a ball with both of their arms straight all the way through it and over-rotate their torso and open up too much. And it's just fascinating to me. It's like, I get it. Yeah, the theory is correct, but shrub comes to you.
I wanted to talk to you about a couple things. This is always fascinating to me, and I enjoy when I get to corner you in somewhere at a tour event. And so going back to, like, Hunter, because I've had this happen a couple times, is it harder when they leave and then they come back, or do you find it easier when they leave and come back, or is it different each time? You know, because, you know, I've had it happen with Smiley a few times, leave and come back, and you and I talked about that a little bit. And, you know, I had it, talk to Bobby White all the way up, and then he left and came back. Just curious your thoughts your opinions and what you've learned over the years when players leave and come back. So I think inevitably, most of the time when you've done a good job and you've had a good relationship and they leave, at some point they kind of do always seem to find their way back at a certain point.
Yeah. Look, you stopped working for a reason in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't seen too many people like get divorced and get married again and then it'd be all right. Like it's so that, you know, there's a reason. Now, I have seen people get divorced and then still go together to Italy with their family and have a great time because they're still very friendly. So
right.
I've seen that. But yeah, I mean, look, the way that my dad raised me and everything like that, it was do your best in life not to take things personally and understand that, how people see you is more a function of how they see themselves than how you actually are. So I don't think I've ever, when Tiger fired me, I sat in airports for 2 weeks and looked at ESPN and saw my name on the ticker. I mean, that was a little bit different. But at the same point, it's like, look, man, like from the first day you get hired in anything, you're one day closer to getting fired, and that's okay. Like there's a lot of golfers out there. Hopefully the time that you had was successful. It was mutually beneficial. But then when it's not working anymore, to stick around, that's when it gets kind of nasty. So it's always about class, man. I mean, as much as this is a business, you can't have that much love for those guys and then all of a sudden one day just go, this is bullshit, forget them. I've never felt like that about anything. And so, yeah, it's different, but can it be successful again? I'm sure that it can, but look, when these guys Bryson DeChambeau has had a great team of people around him, but Bryson DeChambeau, man, is really the captain in a big way of that team. He's pushing all those people around him to get answers. So where Bryson's at is attributed to the people that helped him along the way, but no one sat there and did all those reps in the gym, and no one sat there and hit those millions of golf balls. I mean, the glory has to go, I think it was Roosevelt, right? The glory has to go to the man in the arena.
Right.
So it's all going to come down to, and so when you look at a lot of the top players in the world right now, they have girlfriends or they don't, but they don't have kids.
Yep.
And, with the guys in the last generation, because of obviously Tiger Woods and what happened to purses and things like that, I mean, if you're sitting there looking at $35 million in the bank and a bunch of kids at home, and you know how much that's important to you, and that feels almost better than what you do on the golf course, you can get stuck. So I think at that point, when you have to set, what their objective is in the right way, because if they're still pushing for the finishes that they had, but they're not putting the same amount of time in, I mean, hats off to Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, I've watched for 4 or 5 years. I've got to know him quite well, and I've just watched him be the butt end of all jokes. And, to me, if someone is doing something in a completely different way than everyone else, and everyone is kind of taking the piss out of him, that's the guy you invest $100,000 in. So for me, I thought it was really cool to see him kind of accomplish what he did, because people just need to realize this has been a 5-year plan in his mind that is all-encompassing, like almost every waking hour of the day. Well, how long can you keep that up for?
Right, that's the question, I think, and again, I think that with the money the way it is right now, I don't know that, do you think that many of these younger guys are wired to where they want to go do it for 40 years at that pace or try to do it? I don't think that they need to anymore with the money that's out there. You can go have a good 5-8 year run and make more than you'll ever need in your life.
I think it's going to be more like other sports, because I think what we're going to see, there's going to be a lot more Cameron Champs. We get some of these amateurs who come into the field at like the U.S. Open, and they're the only ones who have the ball speed that he has. And then look, when you're doing that, there's going to be, you're applying more force and torque. There's more velocity. The body's going through more dynamic ranges of motion. And look, so there's not any world-class sprinters who don't pull their hamstring. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to see careers that'll look more, not so much like the NFL, but more like the NBA, 10 to 12 years. And then some guys, obviously golf is different, right? Like my mom and dad, they are 80 and 76, and they come down from Canada from November 1st to April 1st, and they live in Reunion, and they play 9 holes every day. My dad actually at 80 just started breaking 80. So golf's a little different than that, because it's kind of this spiritual quest that we have as well. And it's like it's impossible to ever get it right. I just think in those other sports, a lot of those other guys might have continued to play, but just the fact that they've been jumping and landing on their knees for 15 years, they're kind of done.
Yeah, agree. And I don't think they're going to need, from a money perspective, it's not, it's changed so much that they're, like you said, you're talking about, you got $25 million in the bank and you've got kids, and most of these guys all have other interests, whether it's sports or hunting or fishing or doing different things. They've got the money and the ability to do it, and why wouldn't they go do it? Especially if they're not, body isn't allowing them to be competitive anymore.
And look, I'm grateful to have the job that I have. I'm grateful to work with the guys that I work with. Look, man, post-COVID, this shit's not been a lot of fun, right?
Right.
And when it was a certain way for 13 and a half years, and now it's completely different, I can adapt to it, but it's different for everybody. Like, I think I've had Uber Eats more in the last 4 months than I've had in my whole life. I don't even know if I actually think I had to ask my 12-year-old how to order from the hotel room.
Yeah.
So it's, it's going to be that way for a lot of guys. And look, the idea of what it used to be, we will never see that time again. It's not ever going to happen again, ever. So, it's kind of comes along that type of idea. I mean, we're going to have a bunch of players who come from a generation of kids who have grown up on a phone. They've been entitled quite a bit more than, say, Hogan's generation. And they're going to be sitting in their hotel room for at least the next year and a half. So it's just fascinating. So I honestly think that is far more difficult on the players who travel with their families than the ones who don't even have one.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because these college kids did what? They came from college where they're playing video games or being on their social media feed all night, and right to the tour and did the same thing. Just think over the years, right? Like, I had my Pacifica night on Tuesday at Torrey Pines. I had certain Tex-Mex restaurants in Texas. Like, none of that was kind of, to me, that was kind of the outlet to be around, like, cool people that are doing the same thing that I am. That made traveling, like to where I could handle it. But now it's like, wow, it's just totally different. So, yeah, I just think I think a lot of guys who haven't played well after the quarantine don't really understand that, like, deep within, we're not in the right place with all this stuff yet, and there's a lot of clutter and confusion on, like, what's the world going to be like, what's going on right now, all this negativity and tension and all these things. There's always been there in the world, but it's not been so conflated. We all had 4 months to sit at home and either believe more in what we believe or challenge that, and I just think it's a lot easier for people just to keep believing what they believe, and now you got this device that sends you everything you already agree with. So it's like, it's very interesting, mate.
Yeah, there's so much negativity now. I don't know, or it just seems like there's more access to it. Because it's in front of us all day, every day.
Yeah, and then with the breakdown in leadership, and when I say leadership, I'm not pointing my fingers at anybody. Right. Okay, if you ask me if someone's the leader of a country, and I don't care what party they're about, if you don't think a lot of that's based on narcissism and ego, then you've never studied politics. And that's it doesn't matter. Go all the way back to both sides. There's been very few people who have just really stood up and on either side and done great things. So, I mean, just the fact that that's the way. I think what happens now is the devices, negativity's been kind of more allowed. A lack of, it's been allowed. So a lot of people who are kind of keeping it under their. Look, Tony, it'd be very easy for me to sit on Twitter and start ripping on you, and it would probably be a hell of a lot harder for me to be at your golf academy doing it to your face. No question. So, yeah, it's kind of like a passive aggressive thing. Whereas to me, if you have something to say to somebody, you should. I mean, how about on the PGA Tour when guys get their managers to call their coach or their therapist and tell them they're not working with them anymore? When I see stuff like that and I see a guy break down every weekend, is it due to mental or is it due to virtue aspects like integrity and character? I mean, when Justin Rose and I split up, he flew to Orlando and we met and we talked face to face. I mean, that's how you do that. Correct. So that when you watch him play, whether he's playing great or he's not, man, he plays with so much integrity. I mean, he's going to try and get every single shot out of that score. Right. But if you can't call someone who's helped you for 8 years to tell you that, I don't know how you're going to handle that fire on the back nine. I just don't get it. I don't think you will.
Do you think players coming out now have less of those qualities of virtue just by the way everything is, or you
No, I wouldn't say. You know what? I mean, I've literally fallen in love with Morikawa and Hovland and Matt Wolff. I mean, these guys, they're all different, but they're all great.
Yeah.
You know, Matt Wolff yelled at himself on Wednesday when we were out practicing. Cameron played with him, or Tuesday. And he kind of yelled at himself like, Matthew, do not let this place bully you. And I thought that was just so gold.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, don't let it bully you. Like, you're obviously going to be in bad positions, but don't go there because you're steering it. And then he was chipping, and he came up on the green. He said to me, why am I spending so much time hitting terrible chips from there when in the tournament I'm just going to putt? He's like, what am I even doing out here? It was really funny. And Colin Morikawa, man, I could stand behind him and watch him hit balls all day.
All day.
His coach, Rick, is a class act, and Colin is a primo mover. Victor Hovland I find to be fascinating. So, yeah, I don't see that in those guys. But I think, like, my son who's 12, ever known, like, what the current thing is. That could be different. And we do our best. And it's really crazy, Tony. Like, sometimes as a parent, you get busy. You have a lot of things to do. Those things become cheap babysitters. It allows you to accomplish what you need to. They seem to be happy. And then your kid screws up at school, and you take it away from them. And 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I've got my son back.
Yes.
He actually sits with me on the couch, and we talk about life. And so, yeah, are these things also good? Yeah, of course they're good. You can be more organized. You can do more in a shorter time. But we're crazy if we don't think that the people who built it, who've become the richest people of all time, didn't manufacture it in a way that we would come completely addicted to it. And people are different. Some people get addicted to things faster than other people. And I'd say it's a better addiction than crack cocaine, but to the same extent, it's going to slow you down. You know what I mean? Oh,
no question. Well, you touched on it. One of the things I was going to ask you about is one of the things that frustrates, I know we got to move into this century, and it's part of our existence as teachers, but the ability of people on social media to hide behind keyboards and take shots at players and coaches when they've never coached anybody good themselves or never been in that arena drives me crazy. And that's one of my pet peeves. Because like if I hear somebody take a shot, I'm just saying you and whoever, like, I understand what it's like being out there, and that oftentimes, you don't understand all the dynamics going on. Same thing if Lucas plays bad, somebody takes a shot at me, you understand all the dynamics. But some of the things that these people will say and attack teachers and credibility and players drives me crazy.
Yeah, once again, dude, like, it shouldn't, to me, if I was your therapist, right? If we're sitting in bogeys in Jacksonville,
which we will,
having a couple beers. I mean, look, think about it. Like, one time we were walking down the fairway, and look, no one's been a bigger punching bag than me. The fact is that I didn't start on social media until 4 months ago, so you couldn't really see it. But I had some things sent to me that people were kind of following, and some crazy stuff, right? And it was all, right. Look, always by someone who didn't put their picture, someone who didn't use their name, and then someone who'd never, ever met me, like never met me. So basically at that point, so here's what I think. One day we're at the U.S. Open, and I'm walking down the 9th hole at Congressional with Justin Rose and Hunter Mahan, and they are playing Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson. So we used to have like this Foley Harmon match once in a while. And we're going down the fairway, we're going down 9, and some guy yells, "Hey, Foley, you're fucking the game up. Like, stop ruining Tiger Woods." And Rosie lost it. And Rosie was going straight to the ropes. And so I just said, like, "Justin," and he turned around. I said, like, "Come back, dude." And whatever, he comes back. And he says, "Mate, you got to stand up for yourself." And I'm like, "Why? Like, why do I need to stand up for myself?" He's like, "Well, dude, that's not true what he said." And I said, "Well, what is truth? Like, look," I said, "Here's the deal, Rosie. I'm sitting here. So 2011, 5 years ago, I was waiting tables at an Outback Steakhouse. Okay. Now I'm at Congressional with Justin Rose and Hunter Mahan. I'm standing next to one of my heroes, Butch Harmon, I'm with Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson, and that guy paid $120 for a ticket. He looked kind of like he's roughly around 45 or 50. So can you imagine that he came here today to stand outside the ropes and yell something like that at someone? I said, can you ever imagine yourself doing that? And he's like, no. And I said, so if I didn't feel good about myself and then saw Sean Foley walking down the fairway with that forever smile telling a story to Butch Harmon, looking like he's totally enjoying his life, the only way that I would be able to make myself feel better is to make him feel bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give that to that guy. So look, I'm not ever making a comparison, but what they said about Newton and Einstein and Dr. King, and I mean, the people who really shaped the earth weren't really appreciated till they were dead, mate.
Yeah.
So it's
Fair
like,
point.
you know what it's like. I was ruining golf. I mean, Tiger Woods, I was trying to do my best, but I never
you can ever do.
I never had a player who had 4 knee surgeries and literally went through a divorce, and who knows all the stuff that went on. So it's like, I'm doing my best. I always said to everyone, like, look, if you think it's that easy, then come on. Like, come on out here. Come out here. So, yeah, could the backswing be a little bit better? Sure. Of course it could be a little bit better. Is there too much of this or too much of that? Sure. Well, what makes you think I'm telling them to do that anyways? What, you think I want to see the shaft lean 17 inches forward? You think I want to see someone drop a half a foot in transition? Of course not. I never told anyone to do that in my life. So, that's the whole idea. But I think if you take a deeper look within, like whenever I really had an issue with someone, but that was more like in high school when I was like 14 and 15, all the guys that I talked shit to are the ones that I was jealous of. So it's like, to me, jealousy and envy, it's kind of like, how would I say this? I remember reading this somewhere. It said, like the jealousy and the envy, or kind of the disdain and hatred towards someone, in a way is just a confused admiration button.
Interesting.
So that's just what that makes sense to me. Like, that's not me protecting myself. Look, no one is a bigger critic of me than me. I'm the one who makes myself wake up at 3 a.m. because I think I'm doing a shit job. It happens at least twice a week. I think that it's absolutely necessary that when you're helping people try to achieve their dreams, that you have some insecurity. You must. Mm-hmm. So I create these things around me where I have physiologists and chiropractors who can assess a player, and I have Mark Bull that will run the 3D and tell me what he sees from his world. So we have all these checks and balances in place so that we don't screw someone up with our unconscious bias of wanting everyone to look like Ben Hogan, which I love. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But how many people can actually do that? Like, how many people can be Simone Bales? So we watch her, like, do a flip and rotate through the air and say, see where she puts her arms? Man, she's maybe one of the greatest athletes to ever live, who found the exact sport that she should be in.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, a ton of those girls can do a single flip with one spin. She can do 2 and 3. You can't teach them that. They can't do that. So, that, to me, when you see that special level of like a Ben Hogan or a DJ or a Tiger Woods and one of these players, I mean, man, that's just a lot of them. They're making everybody look great.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And I like what you had, because, one of the things that I realized when I first started coming out on tour, I was, I felt real out of place. And I thought I was the only one that worried every day that I was going to screw somebody up and was insecure. And then the more I've had the opportunity to get to know and become friends with and talk with people like you, you realize that most everybody that's out there that's helping those guys or girls has those feelings, and then it's okay to feel that way. But like for me, when I first started going out, I was like, shit, like I'm the only, like, golly, I'm never going to be any good at this, because every day I'm stressed and worried that I'm fucking somebody up.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, we know basically we know enough of the principles, the physics and the kinetics behind the golf swing. All these swings that look really different are still really powered the same. People say, well, just, they'll put a picture up of like they'll put a picture up of like Jim Furyk and Dustin Johnson and Rory and whoever else at the top of their backswing and say, proves you can play from anywhere. But if you really know what you're measuring, you're going to see a lot of the same things. So, yeah, the look is different. Like, the look is different, but it's like if you have a Ford Fusion that has a Ferrari engine, you have a Ferrari. It's not a Ford. So, if you have a Ferrari with a Ford engine, you have a Ford. So it might look like a Ferrari, but it is not. So I think that's really important is to understand that, for one. And then two, I've done a good job of having the opportunity to work with loads of players, but kind of was like, you know what? I think you'd be really good with Mark Blackburn. I think you'd be really good with Scott Hamilton. I have a friend named Drew Streckel. I think he could really help you. And so I think one of the things I'll realize at the end of my career is I help people build their successful stables. That feels amazing, dude, to be able to, like, the idea of the guy saying, like, and I get this all the time, makes sense on why you came in the pro shop all those years and introduced yourself to everyone and during rain delays talked to us. And I'm like, I was you, man. I am you.
Mm-hmm.
That's astounding to me. But then the funny thing is that I also get the, wow, you're not as arrogant and as full as yourself as I thought you were. I mean, that's my favorite. And then I just tell people, like, have you ever met me before? No. Can I give you some advice? Yes. For the rest of your life, never, ever make a comment about someone that you haven't met, right? I mean, even my 12-year-old son, he's at the point, we're in the grocery store the other day, and the guy at the counter was being like a supreme prick to the lady behind the counter. And it was getting a little terse, and I was about to say something. And then he kind of just rattled off, and I just explained to the lady, look, that wasn't about you. That's just about him and whatever. And she was like, yeah, I understand. And Quinn goes to me, we're walking the car, he goes, man, Dad, you got to wonder what that guy's going through his life to act like that. You know what I mean? Man, if we could, if like, I know in first grade they learn math and they learn all that, but if people could understand, like, if we could be teaching kids, like, little philosophical lessons, like, people don't see you for who you are, they see you for who they think you are. So guess what? If you've been taught that someone from Afghanistan is going to put a bomb on his back and walk into your school, then when you meet someone from Afghanistan, I mean, of course you're going to be very scared. But yeah, does that happen there? Yeah, of course it does. But most people, dude, they haven't had a war for 1,000 years because people want that. So yeah. That's the whole thing, is just realize those people have that unconscious bias that they don't even know. Like, they don't even know they have it. That's the danger of it. So, I mean, obviously this is not a talk for golf, but it is a talk for golf. This is about coaching, and to me, we're coaching. Look at Cameron Champ. Cam Champ is this just out of this world talent. Well, that's a great thing, but it's got a curse too, because the comments always, well, why is he not performing better? And it's like, well, hitting the ball really far every time is a massive advantage, but give Cameron 2 or 3 more years of working on more of the artistry and the softer stuff, and I don't know how he'll shoot over 68 any day, but when you are gifted with the ability to hit it harder than anyone with no spin, then learning to hit it as soft as the best with a ton of spin is probably going to take some work.
The thing I love about Cameron, and that we talked about this, is not only how far he hits it, but how effortless he makes it. It doesn't look like he's trying to, not take anything away from Bryson, but when Bryson hits a tee ball, to me, it looks like he's trying to hit it hard. When Cameron hits a drive, it doesn't look like that to me.
Oh, yeah, and that's just Nolan Ryan, right? I mean, you're looking at the peak of athleticism right there. Now, give him a 46-inch driver. Remember, a lot of the numbers you see with him is with a driver that's 2 inches shorter than normal. So when he just goes to a standard driver, I mean, his ball speed's like 198. And if he really said, okay, I'm going to make my stance, I mean, he almost stands with his feet together. So if I'm going to make my stance a little bit wider, I'm going to get a little more force in that direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to lengthen my backswing, I'm going to increase the hand path a little bit, which will allow me more time to put impulse into the shot. I mean, he could potentially be 210 ball speed. But it is crazy because, he's a solid-looking athlete, but he's not like 6'5", 230, right?
Right.
But the thing is, it's like that's the case. But if you were to put, like, something to detect force in the grip and then have him on force plates and then have him on 3D, you would see incredible peaks in certain places that you wouldn't see anywhere. So, yeah, it's powerless effort, but power is nothing but effort. right? It's nothing but effort. But if you have a body that can kind of stay in those angles because you're really unlimited in rotation, then you're able to make it look, like Rory going at it looks amazing too, right?
Right.
Well, you're born with the ability to do that. That is, you can do yoga, you can do Pilates, you can train with Colby Wayne and Craig Davies and all the best in the world, and they'll improve you, but I think my vert is about 20 inches. If I worked on it for 3 years, I could probably get it to 27. So that's the whole thing. But, you look at Cameron and you think, okay, Cameron's a different kid, right? He's one of the very few guys on tour who, I hate this word, but I just use the word because people use it, mixed race. But, growing up in America with a black father and a white mother and being mixed race and feeling like you're stuck in the middle of these two arguments, that can't be easy. So no. I always just wonder, when people don't have confidence in themselves or they doubt their ability, how much of that is learned by the time we're 11? And it's like our whole life we have to strip all that shit off to see the beauty that's within. So, would I bring that up and talk to him about it? 100%. Would I try to put him around other people who have been through that same thing and they're a little older and they've kind of understood a way to see it? 100%. Because
question.
Well, look, if as human beings, if we don't feel like we're enough, then how are we ever going to achieve? Mm-hmm. So it's amazing, because as men, we're not, be tough, take it like a man. What does take it like a man? What does that mean? So take it like a man means you're not going to cry when you should cry, and you're not going to show vulnerability when you should. So you're going to pretend to be strong. You're going to hold it all in, and your life's going to become shit because of it, because all the stuff you need to deal with, you're not facing. So it becomes medication, becomes booze, becomes drugs, becomes relationships, becomes like it's just such a they're not playing good. Like they might literally cry on the range, and I look at guys all the time and wonder how many of them that would help.
A lot of them.
A nice big, yeah, man. It's so funny. Like how many guys on tour have to, how many human beings have to get their back adjusted and get their neck fixed? And yeah, of course, the golf swing is a taxing motion, but dude, if you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders all day, it's probably not going to make your neck and your back feel very good. So I think that's Tiger Woods, man. He played with an incredible freedom, and even if you just watch Tiger, when he gets to the course, everything he does is in slow motion. Mm-hmm. It's just, you watch him walk on the range, everything is in slow motion. You watch him warm up, everything is in slow motion. Like he's understood physiologically the place that he needs to get himself to compete, and I think it looks much more like he's focusing on getting into a place where he's relaxed, where he's going to have access to his skills subconsciously rather than looking tense and terse. And if you watch Tiger from 100 yards up when he's warming up, you wouldn't know if he's going to go shoot 7 under or 7 over because he always looks the same. But, man, you can stand on the putting green and I've never done it, but send bets back to Europe of who's going to play. How could you advertise the people you're competing with that you have no idea what you're doing right now? Mm-hmm. It's astonishing to me. Like, it's amazing. I remember one year I was at the Ryder Cup, and I won't name names, but I was walking across the fairway to go and see Tiger or Rosie or Hunter. I can't remember which one it was. And the one team was playing behind the other team, and there's 2 guys on the one team sitting up there just advertising all the way to the tee box that they did not have what it takes that week. It was just, I said, man, that's unbelievable.
Right. Why would you want to advertise? Why would you want everybody to know?
I think that's the problem. That's the unconscious part. There's no way. Like, I've done this a lot in the past. I've filmed guys on the course when they're playing well and then when they're playing bad. And I've never had one who watched it when they were playing bad and they weren't embarrassed, and then they looked at me almost without a sense of hope saying, I don't even know I'm doing that. Yeah. So, to me, the best players of all time in every sport had a real awareness. Like, amazing watching Jordan play in that docuseries on Jordan's life, right?
Right, that was fantastic.
Man, he hardly ever to never bitched at the ref, like, after a bad call. Like, he just moved on to the next play.
You don't see that now in the NBA.
Yeah, and the thing is, back then, like, sometimes it was an obvious foul because, like, you were on the ground bleeding. Those guys were banging each other, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Knocking hell out of each other.
So that, that's like basketball's been a little bit more soccer-like. Like, I like when they do it in slow motion and you see the guy's he's not even been touched and he's falling backwards. So to me, I think that's just a really big part of his ability to be such a champion was he just moved on so elegantly from moment to moment to moment and to moment and knew that basically his career would be an amalgamation of 30 billion moments rather than, it's going to be good and it's going to be bad. And if we knew the answer, we'd be charging $1 million a lesson, and we don't. And we can only utilize knowledge and data and information to help us, but we still have to remember that a lot of the greatest wedge players and greatest players in the world, a lot of them had their local pro that was in their junior program and coached them all the way through college. And, it's, I think that, like a guy like Mike Shy, who basically built this whole scenario with Bryson on single length and to get the grip in position where all the joints are locked in the end range of motion, and that would be the most stable way to do it, and all that, and this and that. I kind of feel like the golf community haven't given him any credit at all, because he took the brunt of how this crazy swing was the whole time. So, I mean, that guy knows Bryson's swing inside out. Bryson's put on some distance, but a lot of that's been more sensationalized. I remember watching him hit off the range at Augusta as an amateur. He dropped his hands, made his stance wider, and made a longer backswing. Yeah,
I remember watching him at the Walker Cup at Lytham, St. Anne's. I was over there with Robbie Shelton, and they were playing a practice round together. And whenever he wanted, he had that one. I forget what he called it, but it was when he wanted to hit the big drive. He swung different than what he would normally do, which looks to me strikingly similar to what he's trying to swing like now.
Yeah, no, of course. So I think really how big and strong he got. I mean, I think we saw that out of the rough more than anything, because the fact is there's people who aren't nearly as strong as him who have a higher ball speed. So you know what I mean? That's of course he can put more force into the grip. He's heavier, so just due to overall mass and friction, he'll be able to create more torque without slipping. But that's just, dude, ground reaction forces are the icing on what is already a good cake. Okay? That is not the key to this game at all. There's no way.
What is the key to the game? What do you think is the key to the game?
Well, obviously, what's connected to the grip? I hear young instructors now talk shit about Bob Toski and Jim Flick because they were like, yeah, just, swing the hands and arms and the body will react. And I'm like, oh, my God, you cannot talk about them like that. You have no idea. Bob Toski was 70 years of age, still hitting at 300 yards, swinging his arms. Of course, he was using the ground and using the slings in the body. But when we're born as children, the first things we use is our hands and our eyes for everything. So a second baseman in the World Series, the ball gets hit left of him. He goes right, and then he springs left, and he jumps and he catches it. He was never thinking of loading, and he was never thinking about creating horizontal and vertical force. He was thinking about catching it, and because he's an athlete, he did the other. So no one's thinking dive catch. They're thinking catch. So, that's just a big part. Yeah, I've had a swing catalyst for a long time. I love it. It's a great company. It's another excellent tool to use. But most players I would put on a swing catalyst trying to get them to improve something else, I'm sure they can't hit a short-sided bunker shot out of wet sand. I know that they probably can't. That's probably going to help us potentially earn more money than increasing a peak in a force at a point in the swing. There's so many, they might struggle chipping uphill into the grain. I haven't met very few who don't. So there's, when we're coaching, Bud, there's so many opportunities. If we're charging 5%, there's benefits to revenue in so many places that don't have to be P1, P2, P5, P9, P10. And look, I've done all of that. When I first came on tour, I had a little different attitude than you. When I first came on tour, I couldn't believe they let anyone else out there. I was like, why are they standing on my range? This is crazy to me. Every single bad shot that was hit was only due to technique, and that was only the answer. And you know what? When I believed that, then everything seemed to match that belief. Then things started to happen, and it had to challenge my belief, Bud, maybe it's a little deeper than what you think it is. Well, it's got 10 times deeper since then.
What was it that challenged your beliefs on that? Curious.
Well, I think I was just very lucky when I started out there that Stephen Ames, Sean O'Hare, and Hunter Mahan and Justin Rose could kind of benefit from the same thing. So I felt that they didn't move their lower bodies enough in their backswings. Basically, if I got them to pivot more like Hogan and Snead, that would be helpful for them. Now, that's still very much the case to this day. I mean, they talk about how Snead might have been the best athlete to ever play golf. Well, like, who unweighted and turned more and allowed more time than he did? I mean, he probably could have kept his lower body still and not even moved it and still been awesome.
Yeah.
But kind of the aspect of being centered, going more from like my Morad, more the Mac ideas of the head not moving, that benefited all of them. But I felt like when I started with Tiger that I had enough knowledge, but I was still caught in my preference. And quite honestly, I just basically overtaught him. It wasn't necessary. Like, I think back to it now, and of course it's a lot easier to look back at something and go, wow, I could have done this and that. But
no question.
Like, what was I doing even speaking to the guy? Like, I mean, it's Tiger Woods, dude. Like, if he, Tiger Woods wants to hit some draws and some fades, I've never met anyone who can aim properly all the time on their own. I've never met anyone who kind of keeps a consistent ball position all the time on their own. When I started with Danny Willett, man, that was like full surgery, dude. We needed to go as big as possible because we had to. But I think that was the mistake, is I kind of underestimated where Tiger was at, like within his heart and his mind, with how much his life had changed. And that was what we were seeing a lot of in the technique. I mean, you're talking about someone who went from pretty much being invincible to visible overnight.
Yeah.
And so to think that was going to be fixed with a better takeaway and a different plane was probably a mistake. But you know what? I love the guy. I feel like I was there for him at a very difficult time, and I was so grateful for his professionalism and his friendship. And we still, you know what? I still hang out with every single guy that I don't work with.
That says a lot.
And that being said, I'm about to go and see Hunter Mahan as we speak.
Awesome. Well, hey, Foles, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time. And also,
you too, my friend.
And I appreciate also just the person you are out there, always willing to look at a video, talk to people, and, you've been great to me, and I appreciate it. And I thank you for sitting in.
All right, Tony, have a great day, bud.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Tour Coach with Tony Ruggiero. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening to this podcast. You can stay up to date because we have weekly episodes coming your way with fascinating people in the world of golf instruction at the highest level. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. If you want to learn more about Tony, head over to dewsweepersgolf.com to get all the details on what he's up to. Maybe you want to see him, grab a lesson, or go to one of his camps, pick up his book, Lessons from the Legends. You can do that there. If you want to see Tony in action with some videos and other content, head over to golfsciencelab.com/Tony to get more info there. This episode was powered by the Golf Science Lab and was edited, mixed, and produced by Just Hit Publish Productions.
As we go into year 2 of the Tour Coach, it wouldn't be possible without the support of all our sponsors. And I've had some great ones. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career and in my business is the fact that all of my relationships here and all these sponsorships have been long withstanding relationships, haven't jumped from sponsor to sponsor and manufacturer to manufacturer. And I've always prided ourselves in special relationships and when people work together, support each other, and we've all put out great products for the benefits of everybody else. So I want to give a special thanks to these folks that have been with me for such a long time, and that would be the folks at Srixon, Cleveland Golf, and Zexio. Couldn't ask for a better manufacturer to be aligned with, and not only do they put out great product and great support, but they're first-class people, and they believe in what we're doing here on the Tour Coach and with the Dew Sweepers, and also Vineyard Vines. Ian, Shep, TJ, and all the folks at Vineyard Vines. It's hard to keep me looking good, but they do a fantastic job. And they're like family. They support everything on the Dew Sweepers. And we're so proud to be affiliated with and support the folks at Vineyard Vines. So if you're out there, you're listening to the Tour Coach, please support our sponsors, Srixon, Cleveland Golf, Zexio, as well as Vineyard Vines. And keep listening and keep enjoying hanging out with us here on the Tour Coach.